What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Unemployable. This one was spicy. We talked about the wealth tax on Australians, but we got into some really interesting discussions about the principles, the moral side of it, and also what we think is going to happen as a result of it. And it's not a good story for a lot of people out there because unfortunately we're going to see, in our opinion, some really big changes happening in the landscape of Australian wealth and entrepreneurship. I think you'll find the discussion very, very interesting. Then we switched gears and we talked about some fascinating stuff happening in the world of digital currency. And I gave you real examples of how in 10 minutes I was able to get a loan into my bank account of $75,000 without any, $50,000 without any credit checks, without any proof of income, nothing, paid by a serious, credible financial institution. And I talked about how you might be able to use that money to get, I gave a practical example of one stock that I was telling people about a year ago that is up 1,975%. It's not MicroStrategy in 12 months. And we just had this really interesting discussion about that. And we talked a lot about some of the most popular tax havens in the world, like Dubai, and why millions of people are flooding, not millions maybe yet, but tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people are flooding to these places, and why it makes complete commercial and entrepreneurial sense to do it. And we share some real stories of discussions that we've been having and things we're learning in those spaces. So I think you're going to really, really enjoy this one. It's a really diverse and interesting subject matter. Or at least it was to us, and we think it will be to you. If you like the show, make sure you drop a comment, make sure you subscribe, and most of all, tell your friends. With that said, let's get into it. So, guys, we have plenty of red meat in the marketplace today in the Aussie news cycle. Where do we want to start with this? Why don't we kick off with I'm over here in Cyprus, and I cannot look anywhere online without seeing content coming either out of Australia or the rest of the world talking about Australia with their superannuation wealth tax, situation that's happening down there. I mean, as soon as I saw this, I was like, this is just insane. But you guys get your boots on the ground. Maybe let's kick off today with like a bit of a discussion on this, because it's not only caught Australia's attention, but I can tell you right now, I'm meeting people on the street go, is that real what they're doing? Like they're trying to tax you on money that's not even been made. Like, what's happening back home?
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I haven't heard anyone, like no one in my circles and no one who I talk to has raised it or complained about it, right? Like, so I'm seeing more people from the US point at Australia saying, what the hell are these guys doing? The previous administration was talking about doing something similar. This is what you avoided. It's happening in Australia, but no one I bump into seems to be aware of it, right? Like you guys,
probably don't have 3 million in their super just at the minute. But I think it might be a good place to kick off with is what actually is it? Because there's a fair bit of confusion about where is it inside super, outside super, where is it kicking for? Is it grandfather? Like what actually is this new legislation that's coming through?
Well, you give us the explanation, James.
My understanding is it's inside super. On unrealized gains. So that's the variant. It was getting meandered around the internet that it was any gain.
I used to be confused. Now I'm just not so sure.
Thanks. Yeah, 100%. I mean,
but I think, James, you're right. I think to give people who are not really got their head around it, it's super balances. So those who've got superannuation balances, when they exceed $3 million in a year, like for the year or in total, you have to submit. All the gains above 3 million get taxed, annually, right? And so the way that this was sold to the public was, don't worry, and this is very clever the way the government does it. They say it's only going to affect 0.something% of Australians. That's a really clever way of saying it, because like all evil, it dehumanizes the situation, like what the Nazis did, right? They made the Jews into non-humans, subhumans, right? When you say and you describe a percentage of the population in a percentage point, you forget to say this affects, another way of saying it is this affects over 80,000 retirees in Australia who played by the rules their whole lives, that put off their benefits today so that they would be a responsible Australian and save for their future. The government created tax incentives for these people to delay their gratification, to say, listen, I will put that money away in my super, I'll get taxed at a lower rate, but the trade-off is I don't get to touch it till I retire at the end. And then as a result of that, I'll have a better retirement and I will not be drawing on or at risk of drawing on public resources because I'm self-funded. So they followed the rules. They worked hard and they followed the rules. 80,000 retirees, over 80,000 retirees are going to be affected by this. What's going to happen is if the asset value is over $3 million, they're going to be taxed on any gains, even though they haven't sold the property. So their own shares, and in superannuation, I think, Mark, you gave us the breakup the other week, a majority of it's in shares. So if their stock portfolio goes up, even if they don't sell those shares, they're going to get a tax bill, and then they're going to have to sell some shares to pay the tax office. In other words, it interrupts their compounding growth. It puts the government in control of when their own money, right? They don't get to, because when you retire, you don't have income. So to pay the government, you're going to have to sell your assets. It's a form of capital control. It's absolute disgrace in my mind. Anybody want to comment?
Yeah, I mean, and look, the lesser of the two evils, if the majority of people hold their wealth in stocks, they are liquid. You can cash them in. But if it's property that tips over the edge and they're not a cash-funded retiree, as you just said before, and don't have a huge portfolio, I mean, the chance of them getting reverse mortgages on housing and so forth is going to create a bit of shit show. The amount of stress it's going to create for people that are in their golden years, so to speak, is going to be nuts.
So there is a lot of back and forth about what it is. So just to be clear, Adam, you're saying that it's not just self-managed super funds; it's all super funds. So it's that includes industry super funds, self-managed super funds, retail funds, public sector, and defined benefit schemes. So it's all super funds over 3 million. Currently, it affects 80,000 Australians, but as one thing that you need to be aware of, and I think you mentioned this last week, is as super balances grow, so as inflation kicks in, as the property prices double, as share market doubles, super balances are going to double. So very quickly down the road, it could affect many more Australians. And the other thing that I want to point out is, and this is what I think is very, very interesting. One of the issues in the USA is pension benefits. It's retirement benefits, right? And so basically there's $3 trillion in these pension retirement benefits that when the boomers were basically going through their peak productivity and working years, they were contributing to their version of a superannuation, so their pension funds. And this pool of funds was growing, and it grew to $3 trillion. In 2010, they basically reached their peak years, interest rates came down to zero, and demographics meant that these boomers started to go into retirement. So they started to go into drawdown phase where they were basically starting to take the money from those retirement funds in order to live, in order to buy retirement housing, whatever it is, right? And so that money, what's important to understand is that money funded, that $3 trillion funded the government, right? So those pension funds was lent to the government, funded the government paid interest on that. In America, doesn't matter if you're on the left or on the right, Republicans or Democrats, no one will touch those liabilities, right? Because they know that it's political suicide, and anyone who tries to go after those liabilities will not win the next election. And and Lynn Alden says this, the millennials are the ones that make all the noise and they protest, but it's the boomers that vote, right? So in America, when they tried to propose this law, there was no chance of it getting through because Americans vote and they don't want their entitlements touched. In Australia, we face something extremely different, right? And I'm sure we'll debate this topic later when we talk about housing. But in Australia, everybody has to vote. And these policies have more chance of getting up and coming into play in Australia because the majority of people who are voting now, our millennial cohort, don't own properties. The majority of them don't own properties.
They can't imagine having $3 million.
Exactly. So all of these policies that are going to basically be taking from the rich, giving to the poor, there's more likelihood in Australia that these policies are going to continue to get approved because the voting public it's in their best interest to vote for them. If you're a millennial, you don't have any assets, you can be like, yeah, fuck that shit. Because really what needs to happen is we need to cut these entitlements in order to bring down government debt, in order to balance budgets, right? It's not palatable in the USA, but in Australia, because the voting public doesn't have assets, they're going to vote this shit in. So this is a preview of what's coming in AU.
Mark, there's one point where a lot of listeners don't realize this, especially Australian listeners. In America, it's not compulsory to vote. And so that's what Mark's getting at. In Australia, it is. And in a nutshell, what you're saying is that an 18-year-old Australian with no resources at all yet in their lives is more, and $3 million seems like an obscene amount of money to have. And they have this narrative in their head that the boomers had it easier because house prices were cheaper, because they haven't been in the workforce for a while yet. They don't understand these things. They don't understand how inflation works. They don't understand the power of compounding and all that yet. We heard it on our pod with Scott, when he came on with the real estate, and he said the problem that's going to happen for Australian landlords is that the young people coming through are not going to be able to buy a home, so they're going to vote for pro tenant policies, and it's going to make make it less attractive.
And the people that I find this hardest to understand are our audience, right? It's our audience that have assets. They're like, what the hell are Australians doing? Why are they voting for these morons, these imbeciles? But when you step back and you have a look at it, it's rational. Now, I don't think it's good for the country. I think ultimately it'll be bad. It pushes us more into a socialist, communist regime, which I think will crumble eventually. But it's a rational choice for someone who doesn't have anything to keep empowering politicians to make these kind of decisions. Now, it'll all fucking go to shit in 10, 15 years when there's bread lines and we're like these communist countries like Russia and things like that, because you're going to need to do price controls. You're going to need to do all these different things. You're going to need to do capital controls because of all this. And
it's short-sighted.
It's short-sighted, right?
It's short-sighted because, like the AMP in Sydney brought out a report already saying that the average 20-year-old Australian, by the time they retire, will have a $3 million super balance. So within one generation of Australians, and people are listening going, what are you talking about? 30 years is a long time. The Aussie dollar drops in value massively over 30 years. I did a presentation the other day showing that at a 4% compound inflation rate, $100 today is in 30 years is worth $26, right? And so in 30 years, if you're a 20-year-old, a standard super balance is going to be $3 million. So inside of one generation, every Australian is going to have this wealth tax. And what it shows is that the Australian government cannot keep their fingers off other people's hard works. It's that old saying, right? The problem with socialism is eventually you run out of spending other people's money. And so the Australian government sees this massive honeypot of super, and you've got the Labor politicians going, oh, we could get some budget from there and we can sell it to the poor and we can sell it to the uninformed and stay in power. But don't worry, it's only 0.8% of Australians that we're stealing from, that we are forcing them to sell their labour and their efforts and their sacrifice for the greater good. I mean, these people are probably the ones that employed a lot of people along the way as well. They're probably business owners. They're probably people that are paid more in taxes because they're more financially savvy than the average punter as well. I mean, I might be going out on a limb here, but I would probably, if you cross-reference the data set, and it's just that basic message of take from the rich and give to the poor instead of, do a better job of governing.
Hey, Adam, like I hear what you're saying, right? And even though I don't agree with it, it is good in a say.
I don't agree with me or the policy.
No, I don't agree with the policy, but in a way, it is good policy, right? Like it is good policy because what you're doing.
Populist policy.
Yes, but like in America, they need to bring down those entitlements, right? In Australia, they need to bring down those entitlements. But here's the kicker, right? Here's the kicker. You do have to take that money from the people who don't really need it. Well, I'm going to get killed for this because people are say, I fucking need my super, this, that, and whatever. And our audience is probably pro all of this. But if you think about your kids for a minute, right? Your kids who can't afford a house, who can't do this, who can't do that. If you just want to wear the other hat for 1 minute, it kind of is good policy to give some money over 3 mil right now, and maybe it's over 5 mil, whatever, to give some of that money to the millennials who can't afford it. It kind of is good policy. The thing is, what people don't realize is that kind of policy means that nobody wants to hold bonds. And if nobody wants to hold bonds because of that policy, then what it's going to create is big, massive inflation. And then the inflation then wrecks everybody. So what you're seeing in the US is because everybody knows that the government is faced with this problem, no one wants to lend to the government anymore. They're all going out there and buying Bitcoin. They're buying assets. And so these policies ultimately lead to more inflation down the road, and then everyone suffers.
In my opinion, you're right. It kills innovation. It kills motivation and long-term wealth building, right? Well, what is the incentive of investing now in superannuation? And I'm with Adam going, I've never believed in superannuation since I moved into this country. My superannuation is fucking barely anything, right? Because I'm like, I don't care about the tax incentive, right? The dream is they sell the tax incentive. I could do more money with the money I have access to in my control, pay the highest limit of tax, and still make more money than my money in superannuation being controlled by somebody else. And that goes to show you, I'm with Adam going, there's been 80,000 people that have done the right thing and invested in super, and now they got $3 million. And I have friends' parents messaging me going, hey, can we get on a call to chat about this? Do you know much about this? Because they know obviously with Unemployable and the things that we talk about. Well, the reality is this, if you have 3 million, right? But if
let's talk about practical steps they should take, because there is practical steps they should take. So we can talk about that as well.
If you have $3 million in super, right? And this is what people don't realize. Let's talk about the gain. Okay, that goes up by 10% for the year. You've had a couple good investments, stocks, bits and pieces, 10%, you made 300 grand, right? Let's just use rough numbers. Say you got to pay 25% of it back in tax, whatever that tax rate is going to be, because I'm not even sure what the tax rate is of someone. Right.
For super, it's 10 or 15% on gains. It's not 25%. It's 10 or 15%.
All right. So gains. 10 or 15%. So it goes up, right? You got to come up with 60 grand for the 300. Like, where are the people going to get the 60 grand from? This is what I want to know. They're going to have to sell things, right? We're talking about my parents. My parents are here right now. They're 65. My mom just retired. They're not working. They're not doing side deals. They're not doing daily trades. They're not.
Yeah, right? But the person with no assets is going to say, well, too bad. Fucking sell something. You got $3 million worth of assets.
But what's going to happen is majority of the assets, right, are held in stocks. Majority of the assets are held in the stock market. So what's going to happen when 80,000 people at some point, right, get a 10% gain on Tesla, or get a 10% gain on whatever it is, right? Toyota, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? Whatever stock, Nvidia, what are they going to have to do, right? A lot of them are going to have to sell stock. Stock is the most liquid thing, right? So, I mean, 80,000 people is a very small percentage of the whole population. And it goes to show you that only 80,000 people over all these years have over $3 million in your superannuation account. Because the reality is this, if you're earning 100 grand a year over the last 30 years, right, and you're getting 10% superannuation, because that's what it used to be, you can work out those numbers very quickly going, okay, that's 10 grand a year. I've worked 40 years. I got 400 grand in my super, as an example, right? So majority of those people aren't getting affected anyway. So it's like whoop-de-doo. But to the 80,000 people that have done the right thing, it's a problem for them. It's not a problem for me at the moment, because I don't buy stuff in my super, because, again, my gut told me, like, I don't believe in it. I rather control my own money and pay, and not, all the self-managed superannuation and tax incentive. Like the tax incentive now, I'd love to see the calculations on someone to work on this deeply and go, okay, what is the tax incentive now when you're actually going to be getting taxed on unrealized gains on things that you're going to have to sell to get the money? And what's the opportunity cost of selling those things?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like I'm as big of a capitalist as the three of you guys are as well. Right. And at the end of the day, if you've got 3 mil in your super and your super goes over 3 mil, you're going to have to withdraw from your super. And if you're at that age, so the people out there that are at the age where they can withdraw from their super, They just need to be withdrawing from their super. They need to be withdrawing from their super so it doesn't go over the 3 mil. And then they need to be taking control of that money and investing in assets. Now, they're not going to get the tax breaks that they would get by having that money in super. So they're going to have to pay a higher capital gains, or they're going to have to pay a higher tax. But the reality is it's still a good problem to have. You just have to be a little bit more active. What's happening? Like, at the end of the day, we can argue black and blue, but what's happening is the government has too much. Governments around the world have too much debt. And so they're closing loopholes in order to benefit themselves and to help feed the debt. Like, there's no other options here. We are going to get taxed one way or another, either through inflation, debasement, straight out tax, land tax, capital gains tax. It's coming. It doesn't matter whether you've done the right thing or not. It's coming. It's just which way do you want to get fucked? Right? You choose which way you want to get fucked, because you're going to get fucked.
I mean, that's the thing. Before, probably that small percentage of people who have got over the 3 million threshold were business people taking advantage of the tax concessions. But as we're saying now, when you're an employee, you got no choice. It's going into super regardless, and your hands are tied. Whereas business people probably won't be using that as a tax loophole. You're right, Mark. But as you said, they're going to get fucked another way. So,
Eric, you made a good point, right? People are going to sell stocks, right? And this is why we've been banging on, or maybe Adam and I have been banging on, that over the next 5 to 10 years, while all this shit is going down, gold and Bitcoin is most likely going to outperform stocks and is going to outperform real estate, because capital controls, not just in Australia, in Europe, in Japan, everywhere, are going to force people to sell assets and repatriate money back home. The only thing that you can't be forced to sell is Bitcoin, right? So that there's no forced selling, but stocks are going to be forced sold. 33% of super balances in Australia are in international equities. 23% Australian equities, 18% bonds, 12% property and infrastructure, 7% cash, 7% alternatives. So yes, those assets are going to be forced sold, which is going to mean that gold and Bitcoin are going to outperform them over the next 5 to 10 years. So what should your friends be doing who have super balances over 3 million? They should be taking out anything over 3 million and buying gold and Bitcoin. Not financial advice, just some hack on the internet giving his opinion.
Mm. Yeah, what I'm interested also to know is when this taxing happens, because it doesn't happen when you enter retirement age, or if you've got over 3 million prior to retirement age, are you going to be having to pay bills along the way leading up to that? But for me, I'm like, this is not a question of left or right. It's a question of right or wrong. That's it. Is it right or wrong to change the rules like that? It's like, when the US, one of the dumbest things the US did was weaponize their currency. And you might be thinking, what am I talking about, weaponizing their currency? Well, when the Ukraine-Russian war broke out, and they said to the Russians, we are dishonoring our bonds with you, our US treasuries. Yeah, we're canceling those. So they basically sent a message to the world saying, your money is not safe when you buy US treasuries. That's what they did. They weaponized. It's like when the truckers in Canada protested and the Canadian government froze their bank accounts. That's weaponizing currency. When you do that, the long-term impacts are terrible. And when you break the trust of people playing by the rules, it's not smart, or it's not ethical, in my opinion. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what the fallout of this is, and when Australians are going to start to sort of push back on this stuff, because the good nature of Australian people has been taken advantage of for far too long. And the reason Americans are going nuts is because they know this, and that Americans are just... I was in Monaco 2 years ago, and I know this sounds like a fucking rich man's thing, but I was in Monaco in the back of a car, and they were just giving me... The Americans are like, what the hell is wrong with you Australians? We were watching you through the lockdowns. Like, what is wrong with you guys? Are you retarded? Like, what is...
Yeah, but you're in the back of a car. You're in the back of a car. Let's keep it real. You're in the back of a car with a driver, and it was a Rolls Royce. So, like, no wonder they're fucking giving you shit. Number one, no. But
they were all Americans just going. We were in a transport going back, and they're like, Melbourne. Like, what's this place, Melbourne? And they were talking about globally they just could not believe how much we let ourselves get fucked over.
The issue is, you are a perfect example, right? Right now, people are going to start investing money in places that want to see them succeed, not get punished for it. And right now, we're getting punished right, to become
Correct.
wealthy. And that is an issue. And that's why it's gonna drive innovation down. It's gonna drive motivation down in the country. And for people that are listening to this moving forward, like yourself, and you're inspiring a lot of people with the Travel Channel and the rest of it, and Mark, and like, I'm having discussions with my wife, literally having discussions going, hey, what are we going to do if this, and this happens? Where are we going to go? Right. I'm having my ex business partner, good friend, Chris, we're having these discussions, right? He's talking about it. And this is the thing. We shouldn't be having these discussions. We shouldn't have to be thinking about, you know what, we're being, punished to become wealthy. And that is like, when you think of it, it is so crazy that people, in power or a country can actually push people out that want to succeed, that want change, that lead innovation, that are entrepreneurial. We will just be like the UK in regards to losing multi-millionaires, right? And not just 100 of them or 200 of them, thousands of them. And you know what? It'll impact this country so much more because we don't have a massive population, right? And the more of Adam Hudsons that leave the country and spend their money overseas and make their money overseas, to me, is going to be an issue moving forward. And at the end of the day, there's going to be the 80,000 people that have tried to do the right thing, right, by their financial broker and by the system, and put their money in their superannuation. And again, like I said, I'm getting text messages going, hey, can I learn about this? And it's actually devastating that they're being put in a position of scarcity when they should be enjoying their life. Because the whole thing is, I remember growing up, there used to be a commercial, right?
But it's hard to argue scarcity when they're the 80,000 people that have 3 mil in their super, right? Like, I could sit here and I could probably argue a stronger debate for why this is a good law than why it's a bad law. But
3 mil in their super, right? 3 mil in their super, even if they're drawing on it, even if they're drawing on 3 mil in their super and they retire at the age of 60, right? And they want to live a half decent life until they're 80, right? And you start working out the calculations and the cost of living and all the rest of it, and they want to do a bit of traveling, that money gets eaten up fairly quickly if you actually want to live a life of enjoyment. If you just want to fucking live a life where you go and do the same thing and watch Netflix every night and you eat a bit of Ben and Jerry's and you can go to Macca's on a Friday night, that's a different story. But if you actually want to go around and you want to travel,
the money's not being taken off them. They just don't have the superannuation tax rate.
Even drawing down on it, right? Even drawing down on $3 million, right? Over at 60, if you retire at 60, how old do you actually want to live to? Like, roughly, is it 80? Is it 85? What is it?
I mean, 90.
Right? Like, work it out. 90? Okay, let's go 60 to 90. Some people are going to say 90. Fucking people aren't going to live to 90. That's 30 years. If they draw that down, that's $100,000 a year to draw down. If they just take it all out.
If you're worth 6 million, or if you're worth 10 million, you can have 3 million in your super at the discounted tax rate, and the other 7 million has to go at the normal tax rate like everyone else. That's all that happens.
Yeah, but I know, but the 80,000 people, I'd love to know the percentage that actually have 10 million as an example, or 7 million, or 8 million. Yeah. Right. For me, it doesn't affect me. You want to know why? Because superannuation is not a thing. But eventually, what it's going to be, it'll be another tax that comes into play. Traders. Okay, if you're trading like Bitcoin, I'll tell you right now, in my opinion,
this is the point.
Cryptocurrency, right? In general, they will put some kind of tax at some point on that, because they want to hold money, right? They want to hold money in, and the reality is, we have no choice. Well, we do have a choice: stay here and pay it, or pack up like Adam did and leave and live your life on your own terms somewhere else. That is the
point, and I agree with you 100% on that point. Right? I could sit here and make probably a stronger case for why the super rule is a good rule, but the point is exactly what you just said. This is just the first step. This is just dipping the tip in to the amount of amount of new ways that they're going to come and do things, and none of us are going to be immune. And you're 100% right. And what that does is, first, it gets rid of Adam, and then it gets rid of Eric, and then it takes Mark away, and then it takes James away. And what you're basically doing is incentivizing all of your smartest, brightest, and most entrepreneurial talent to leave, to go set up shop everywhere else. And then what happens is the government, instead of the private sector fueling the economy, the government is the ones that got to hold up the economy. And go back and look at history, how that always ends. So I agree with you about the final outcome, 100%. I do.
And just to round it out, because as you said, you could probably make a good argument for or against. It's a massive fuck you and a slap in the face to people that played by the rules for 30, 40 years. And now it's just wrong. Find it somewhere else. But that's just a complete bait and switch and change the rules at any fucking time. So, and again,
James, nobody what the point is, like weaponizing the currency, people stop trusting the government. And when people stop trusting the government, it's not good for society. It is not a good place to be. When you don't trust your institutions, Australians don't trust their institutions already. They hate banks, they hate Coles and Woolworths, and they don't. And now they're starting to not trust the government. As if they didn't do enough through COVID to lose our trust. Now they're doing this shit on us. If you're sitting there thinking this won't happen, I'll tell you right now,
it's coming
it's absolutely happening. In Illinois, I just saw an article in Illinois in the US that the state there is about to pass a law where they're charging $1.50 per home delivery just to raise revenue. Like when I go out my door here, there's loads of people with money in this little island. And last week, I'm organising a charity event at the moment, and it's going to be promoted with Unemployable, where we're going to raise funds for charity. It's going to be over 3 or 4 nights. It's called the Freedom Conference online. There'll be more info coming. But one of the guest speakers, I was speaking to her 2 days ago. She's a Kiwi girl living in Dubai. Just said, fuck this, I'm out. She's moved to Dubai, and she's now selling real estate. And it's for 2 million AUD. People can buy an apartment in Dubai. And with that, they get a golden visa. I said, how's business? She goes, oh my God, you would not believe how busy I am. And she sent me all these brochures. I'll send it to you guys after. You wonder whether people are going to move. Just jump on a plane to Dubai. You can be there in fucking 14 hours, spend a couple of days in Dubai, go and see some real estate developments from EMAR and DMAC, and go around and just go and have a look, and then tell me that people won't leave. They're fucking pumping sand up and creating islands with all the wealthy people that are going, fuck you guys, I'm out of here. I'm going to go where my money's treated best, where they're building places of other people. Like this is the Hunger Games happening in real life. Like it is actually happening. And I've said to her, look, I might even grab a place in Dubai because I can see what's happening. They're literally pumping up luxury resorts, and you can buy them and they'll give you 0% interest finance over the construction time. And she says,
you get over 7 years to pay for it. You know, they don't do interest. You put a deposit down, and then you pay 1% a month over 7 years. And what they actually even do, right, is it doesn't take 7 years to build a lot of these developments, but say it takes 3 to 4 years to build a development. They will hand you the keys. You still owe them 50%, right? But what happens is you owe them the keys, and the rent that you get, there's no interest on it. So the full rent that you get goes straight towards 100% of the principal that you still owe them, the 1% a month.
Correct.
There's zero. So there's no bank. Like it's what you can do is refinance property here and buy there as an example. And you have an interest here that you have to pay. But there's no interest. You don't go there. It's the developers. It's the actual government that is incentivizing the developers and people. Like it's an unbelievable system.
I saw a young woman from Melbourne last week. She did on YouTube. She goes, I'm from Melbourne, and I'm going to tell you right now, this video could get emotional. And she goes, and she's standing outside the front door of an apartment. She goes, I moved to Dubai. I started with nothing. I've gone into crypto trading. She's a young girl. She's probably 30, 32, right? Single mum, right? She goes, I'm about to show you the apartment I've just bought, paid for, from my profits and what I've been able to do out here in Dubai, and takes you into this 3-bedroom corner suite overlooking the Palm. And I'm like, you tell me that that's not going to start drawing people, young Australians in a digital world. Australia is in trouble if they don't. Our talent, anybody with half a brain is going to. People said to me the other day, Adam, you seem so much lighter and so much happier. I said, that had a lot to do with my job choice. I gave up a job where I was working 3.5 to 4 days a week for the ATO. And the pay was terrible, horrible cultural environment. I resigned. I feel so much better, right? Like, This is the choice
Yeah,
that people are going to make. And if you walk out the door, Eric, it's a tragedy. You've got 170 staff that all of whom pay tax. These dumb fucks that come to you on social media. Oh, we'll just fuck off back to Canada then. I'm like, yeah, those 170 jobs wouldn't exist. Those 170 PAYGs that are contributing to the tax base wouldn't exist if not for Eric and people like him coming in here and taking the risk to start a business. And the incentive is less and less and less. And Charlie Munger said, show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome.
I'm going to actually, I'm looking down at my phone at the moment because I'm going to bring something up in a second to show you guys that are actually watching on YouTube, right? So I incentivize you, if you're not watching on YouTube, to jump on YouTube at some point, because I'm going to show you something in a second in Dubai, what you were just talking about. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I was just going to say, right, like at the end of the day, this whole Robinhood thing, it will not work. They have proven that the debt is not going to go down. They're not going to like choose austerity because it's not politically palatable. So more and more base units, more and more debt is going to go into the system. So for anyone out there sitting here believing, oh, you know, fuck the rich, take the rich, tax the rich, it's not what's going to happen. The rich are going to move to these rich havens that you've just gone and explained in Dubai or Monaco, wherever it is, and the rich are going to get richer, right? And everywhere else in the countries that they leave because the policies become fucked, it's going to be a welfare state where the whole country is basically on government handouts and welfare. So the rich will all live in their rich havens and everyone else will be on welfare. And so like if that is the society that you want, then keep voting for these policies because that's the way we're heading.
And Mark, the people, the people in the comments are going to say, oh, well, you know, get some balls and stay and fight. You can't win. The quicker you wake up. Yeah, if you think you're going to win, like it's like these fucking Americans with their, like
you can't outrun this problem. This is not an elbow problem, a Labor problem, a Trump problem. This is a debt problem. This is math. You cannot fucking outrun the math. So it doesn't matter what you say or how many followers you have or what kind of traction you get. Like, look at the smartest man in the world, Elon Musk, probably the best entrepreneur that has ever existed, went into government, thought he could cut 2 trillion, and now he's backed out and he's gone back to his business because he could only cut 150 billion. It's not possible to win. It's just
Arnold
math.
Schwarzenegger's book, this is a guy that came from Austria, became a world champion, multi-seed. Of all the things I've ever done, the only thing I've never been able to win in is politics. You can't win. And that's how it is. And the quicker you realize this Aussie attitude, we'll stay and fight and go into politics and like, I'll just turn into an angry fucking person if I try to
We'll just interview them. Let's stick to interviewing them.
You can't beat them, fucking join them, right?
You know, I give Polly's props because, you know, I go like anybody who does that for fuck that. You know?
Right? We'd want to do it.
I want to show you guys something, okay?
Guys, I know this is an ad, but trust me, you want to watch this one because it is an absolutely ripping product for anybody who uses a computer. One of the things I hate the most in business is email and responding to YouTube comments on my computer here. This AI app is a game changer. What it does is it enables me to never type another email again. I'm going to show you how it works, but essentially, instead of typing, I have a key on my computer that I just push the key, I start talking, it dictates everything I said and uses AI to correct any words that it hears after I've trained it a few times where there's misspelling, and it just cuts my email response time in half and enables me to give much deeper, better emails to people. Just check this out. As soon as you see it, you'll see how it works. If you want to get it, there's a link beneath this video. It is insane. It's called Whisper AI. It's a game changer. Let me show you. So this is a scene you've all seen before, writing an email, but instead of going and writing and using my keys here to type in, I'm just going to push that little FN button and I'm going to read this straight in here. So watch this. Hi there, thanks for watching the podcast. Have a great day. Let it go. Boom, there it is, and I hit send. That's it, guys. Click on the link below the video. Get signed up today. It will save you heaps of time. All my entrepreneurial friends are using it. You can thank me later. Let's get back to the pod.
Exactly what you were talking about. I'm going to rewind it a little bit and go back to Dubai because I'm actually passionate about this because I got smashed on a reel that went viral about 6 months ago or so. Now, this is a development in Dubai. Now, we're not talking, it's not beside the Burj Khalifa, okay? Like there's different pockets in Dubai that have different growth areas, right? So it's a little bit out, but it's still in a high growth area. Now, I'm going to show you guys a couple photos. All right. So that's the building, okay? Now, there's 30 plus, right? This one was called Peace Lagoons, okay? There's a few hundred apartments, 30 plus amenities. Now I'm going to just talk about a couple of the amenities, okay? There's artificial waterfalls, private pool, spa sauna, kids pool, restaurant, gym, mini golf, gaming area, infinity pool, aqua gym. Now I'm going to show you what an aqua gym looks like. An aqua gym is literally, okay, for those
Did you say awkward gym or an aqua gym?
Aqua. Sorry, aqua for our Canadian and US viewers, and aqua for our Aussie viewers. But what you see there, right, is bikes and elliptical machines under the water.
In the water, fucking
In the water. Okay, we're talking tennis courts, all kinds of stuff. Now, one of the cool things is you've got your own private pool in every single unit on your balcony. Can you guys see that?
It's nuts.
Okay. All right. This is real. Now, a mate of mine lives there. He sent this to me. I actually didn't buy one. And just so everyone knows, right? This is the prospectus, right? 20% down, 80%. You pay 1% per month.
And you get the golden visa when you put the deposit down.
Yeah, over 7 years. But this one, as an example, because it was a little bit farther out, and these are a little bit smaller units. Okay, so I'm gonna pull up now for you, just to give people an understanding of what's available out there. So this was a studio plus pool in this particular development, and they're about 500 square feet. So they're quite small, right? So they're probably about, what is that, 50 square meters. So almost like a studio hotel room kind of, 265,000 Aussie dollars is what you can buy one of those units for. I'll tell you something right now. You can't even build a pool on a balcony in a high-rise building for $265,000 in Australia. So this is some of the things that you can actually do there. Now, 20% of $265,000, right, is about $52,000. So if you've got $52,000, and then put another 10 grand for closing costs and bits and pieces and fees and the rest, $60,000, right? You can get into a property, pay 1% a month of the balance. That's 200 grand, right? You can work out what 1% a month is over 7 years in this particular development. And they reckon it'll be done in 4 years. So after the 4th year, you're now getting full rent, right? And I won't go into detail on, but it goes to show you there's different ways of doing things. And
Eric,
sometimes you have to look outside, right, of the 5-kilometer radius, right, of where you live. Now, the reason why
5-kilometer bubble that you can't leave.
Now, my mate rang me. My mate's connected. He rang me, and we have plenty of other mates. And he says, we've got 20. We've done a deal with the developer. We've got 20. Do you want one? And I was umming and ahhing and busy doing things, and I didn't engage in one. 20 gone, right? And I know people, acquaintances, that bought in there. But these are the opportunities that are out there.
Eric, tell me that if you're a smart young Australian listening to this, who's in the world of AI and trading, and like here in Limassol in Cyprus, there's so many entrepreneurs that it's all crypto, it's all trade, because they don't have the infrastructure. So it's like New Zealand. You've got these super innovative people here that make money on global markets and trading and education, all types of things. Tell me that a young Australian listening to this who can't afford a house in Australia is not going to be on, hang on, what? This place is full of entrepreneurs from all over the world that are going to pay 9% corporate tax, no tax on dividends. I can buy a home financed by the developer with $50,000 down, and they're going to finance me with beyond that without any financials. Like, and I can live there. Like, I was in Dubai like a couple of years ago with Cass, and I looked around before coming here to Cyprus. But I'm going to do it Dubai style. So I went there. I rented a Rolls Royce Cullinan. I'm going to roll like with the Dubai people, you know, like just for fun, right? And I looked around at co-working spaces, right? There was this one that was just rock star, the photos of it online. And I'm driving to get out. It looks like I'm nowhere. And then there's this huge housing estate. And then this architecturally designed space with like this massive big pond out the front of it and this massive big wooden door. And I open it and it is full of English, Aussies, Italians, people from all over the world between 25 and 35, just banging out their businesses. There was a library, there was a swimming pool, there was a rooftop with a pool, there was cold plunge sauna, just And it was like $500 a month to go there and work and meet people from all over the world. This is what we need to understand, is that this is the world that we are competing with. But the answer in Australia is just tax the rich. I'm just like, oh my God, please, we're gonna ruin the country.
And some of the things that are hard to believe at times, right? And don't get me wrong, right? People will be listening to this like, oh yeah, that's fine, but you know how expensive it is to live in Dubai and this and that. We're not talking about people that, again, aren't innovative or aren't entrepreneurial, right? We're talking about people that want to go out there and have a crack and create some wealth and make money and spend money. So my good friend that lives there, he's like, he's having a hard time to even come back, right? He's doing some big things there. And I said, so tell me a little bit about the life there. He goes, well, I have, and he's got 5 kids. So they've got au pair, they've got a chef, and he goes, Eric, I've got a driver. He goes, I bought a Range Rover here. I've never driven it. He goes, I have a driver that drives me everywhere. I go to a meeting, he waits in the parking lot. If my missus needs to be picked up at the shopping center, picks her up, goes home, picks me up. Like these are the things, like what would it cost to have a full-time driver all day, just waiting around for me from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. here in this. These are the little incentives, right? Like, yes, you're paying for higher, right? Rents, and you're paying, if you want to go out to the fancy restaurants and the beach clubs and the rest of it, you're paying for it. But you got to look at the offset of the tax and the other benefits that you can get. And for me, I'll tell you something. If I knew what I knew today, I probably wouldn't be here. I would probably be in some type of country like that. And the reason why we probably, we're talking about it, right? We're getting our European passports, citizenship at the moment, and all these types of things, just to give us options. Is the kids? If the kids weren't here, as in, if we didn't have kids and I was just single and married, or single and not married, it would be very hard not to just go there, because again, once you start friends that go there, the opportunities are already there, the introductions are already there. You're one phone call away from getting that email, which I just showed you guys, and there's multiple of those emails over time that is just like, hey, do you want in on this? Like, it's very, very
Eric,
tempting.
that's the big thing, is the opportunity. Like, I've lived in Los Angeles for 5 years. The opportunities in Los Angeles and California and the US versus Australia, incomparable. Access to talent at reasonable prices with much better employment terms, incomparable. I struggled to hire an Aussie after living in America and hiring in America. Go to Dubai. Like, this young woman that I spoke to who's coming on the Freedom Summit with us, she just said, I was in New Zealand. She'd be getting 50 to 100 grand a property, and she's got a line of people who are like lining up to buy them for $2 million to get the golden visa, right? And the minute they pay their deposit, they can apply for their golden visa to be there for 10 years as a tax resident. So she's gone there to the opportunity. You guys know that I'm doing some business with some people in Dubai at the moment. These guys, he moved out to Dubai 2 years ago, found an opportunity through a networking event, partnered with a young guy, and now they're doing $3 million a month 2 years later. Tell me that guy's coming back to Australia. He's never coming back, right? And it's a hotbed of innovation and ideas. It's got strong banking. It's got strong laws. So I guess all I'm saying, just to round this out, is that, there's a big world out there, and I encourage young people or anybody listening to this, you're not stapled to the ground. You can, entertain opportunities. And I think flexibility is a superpower. Being open is a superpower to go where the opportunity is. People have become so complacent now. They're like, well, it's all fun, all good, but I live in Sydney. I'm like, brother, get out of Sydney then. Fucking move to the Gold Coast. All the people that moved from Sydney and Melbourne to the Gold Coast 10 years ago and started buying property are now rich, because they just got out of their circles in Sydney and made a 1 hour flight north. It doesn't take that much sometimes.
It's funny that all the people that moved it's all the people that picked up and moved from Melbourne and Sydney to the Gold Coast who now potentially talking about moving overseas, right? It's
correct.
Like the same type of people kind of make that.
And the Gold Coast is unbelievable. Like, honestly, this morning,
incredible.
My parents are here from overseas. We're walking Burleigh Heads. We're on the Burleigh Headland. I'm looking out. I'm like, this is the best fucking place on it. Like, I'm looking at it and I'm just going, wow. Like, this is pinch me. It was unbelievable morning this morning, right? But you're paying for it. You are paying for it. And the thing is, when you're paying for it and you're happy to pay for it, is something else. But when you're forcefully getting punished and paying for it, it's hard to actually, take that in and knowing what's coming. Like Mark said, I feel like this is the first, one of the first things that's going to happen. Then there's going to be a second thing, and then there's going to be a third thing. What happens is you start thinking about these things, right? And you start going, what if this happens? What is the incentive to go and do that new development? What is the incentive to start that new business and hire those, new team members? What is the incentive? Because at the end of the day, again, it kills innovation. It kills motivation. And in my mind, these are the things, after discussing these pods with you guys and listening to my mates overseas, which I've got a fair few of them now, right? You included, Adam, and just talking about these things. And when we start working out numbers, like I just had a chat with Chris, and he's going, I've already done the calculation, and he showed me the spreadsheet. He goes, this is my scenario here, and this is my scenario if I moved into Dubai. And it was like 40% better off, man. 40% better off. And I'm just going like, yes, no family. Me, it's a little bit different. My family's not here. I got my wife and I got my 2 kids. I don't have my parents here. I don't have sisters here. I don't have brothers here. They're all in Canada. So for me, I've already done that. What holds most people back, and that's it's.
Eric, I could get Mark's business, and I could be half as successful as Mark and work half as hard and make the same money by doing it from here. That's the bottom line. I could, and Mark's business could be done from anywhere, as any of us on this call could be. And it's and
that's what's happening, right? It's the whole technology is creating this decentralization, right? And so, this whole segment we've kind of banged on about some of the negatives and what it's going to mean and things like that. But at the end of the day, we really have an opportunity because of the decentralization in technology. And
I see
those who are listening and can make, most of the people listening to this pod have aspirations to be in a position where they can make more choices. Yeah. So, these are the kind of choices that we hope to show you that are available.
And if you're looking for a jump off point here, talking about new technologies and innovation, I shared an article for you guys in the WhatsApp group, and the Fiverr just announced an 18,347% increase in inquiry for AI consultants to help build chatbots and all that sort of stuff like that. So if you're looking for a puck to skate towards, there it is.
And there's interesting things going on. Like Mark, you're sort of crossing 2 digital income sources right now. You've got your e-com business, and then you've got your trading. Both of those you can be anywhere. But in the world we live in now, oh my God, there's never been more opportunity for young people to generate cash. One, with this digital world that's coming, and we've got the now, emergence of cryptocurrencies are being legitimized at the moment. One thing I was just going to share quickly that just opens up huge opportunities for people. Last week, a mate of mine in Australia said, "Hey, have you borrowed any money against your Bitcoin?" And I was like, "No, I never looked at it." And these are what we call DeFi projects, so non-traditional finance projects that are now being legitimized. Now, many of you have probably heard of Howard Lutnick. So Howard Lutnick is the Treasury Commerce Secretary or whatever in the White House. He's like a multi-billionaire, very interesting guy, works in the White House next to Donald. And basically, Elon was responsible for cutting the budget, and Howard's responsible for growing the budget. So Elon had to cut $1 trillion, I think, and Howard was going to add $1 trillion and use revenue sources. Anyway, he's just through his family company, they've just invested in a company called 21. So it's got SoftBank, Jack Mallers, and Howard Lutnick, and one of the core parts of that. What's that?
And Tether.
And Tether, yeah. They put in 43,000 Bitcoin as a base layer of security, and one of their first products is lending against Bitcoin. So how it works is basically you can put a Bitcoin or a part of a Bitcoin, whatever Bitcoin you have, you can transfer it into a corporate treasury. Now, there's a whole discussion around the risks of that, but I chose LEDN in the US, LEDN, just to do a test. And the reason I went with LEDN is because they have proof of reserves, meaning that they prove every 3 months they actually are holding your Bitcoin, and they do not rehypothecate it, meaning they don't lend it, they don't do anything with it. It sits in a treasury with proper corporate custody. And after FTX meltdown and everything, now the next wave of operators like Howard Lutnick and legitimate people are coming through. So anyway, I moved my Bitcoin. You basically have to go through a basic KYC, know your customer. So you upload your passport. They then, your details, they cross-reference that you are who you say you are. Then they go, your loan's been approved. Transfer your Bitcoin into this wallet address. And then within 10 minutes, they put in 50% of the value of your Bitcoin into your Australian bank account. Done in 10 minutes. No proof of income, no nothing. And the reason they do,
but they transfer Bitcoin on Bitcoin or cash on Bitcoin?
Cash. So when people say to me, "Oh, you know, Bitcoin has no value," I accept the Australian dollars in my bank account that they're prepared to lend me. What does it tell you when they're prepared to lend it to you? So I literally put in my National Australia Bank account details with my SWIFT code and everything. And then bang, 50%, it was $50,000 roughly US. The Australian equivalent gets wired into my Australian bank account. I've got 12 months to repay it. On the 12th month and the anniversary, I repay the principal plus the interest, which all in, including the origination fee. It was a 1% origination fee.
So no monthly repayments.
Monthly repayments, capitalized at the end. I can pay it off early if I want to. The interest rate is 12%, and that includes the origination. That's everything. That's the overall APR. And so, like for e-com entrepreneurs listening to this, right? You might go, I got some cash here. I might buy 2 Bitcoin instead of, banking. I'm going to have a corporate treasury in my e-commerce, and I'm going to borrow against one of my Bitcoin to finance my inventory at 12%. Instead of having to go through NAB, charge me 10. So for 2 points extra, I can use my Bitcoin, but hold the Bitcoin still. So I get the 30% upside on the Bitcoin catering each year, or 40% upside, rather than NAB, which will give me 5% interest on a term deposit. I can put it in Bitcoin and use that as my treasury and get the exposure of Bitcoin. And I just want to make a caveat here. I wouldn't do this if you just had one Bitcoin, or no other cash, because if Bitcoin drops, then you might get a margin call. You have to top up with more security. But this is a real financial product. And I was like, holy shit, I couldn't believe how fast and easy it was to actually, and this isn't a paid sponsorship. We're not getting an affiliate commission. I'm just saying I did it and it worked. And I was like, holy shit, this is the future of finance. Literally, it was 10 minutes later.
So run us through the process. How long did it take you from finding out about it to actually money hitting your account?
10 minutes.
Wow.
If you're going through like in Australia, if you're using Australian exchange, and you're going through a trust structure, there's a little bit more KYC. They've got to verify trust deeds and all that sort of bullshit. As we talk right now, if you're opening up just an individual account, pretty lightning quick.
Leaden was just literally passport. I think it was a passport, driver's license, my personal details, and then they said within 5 minutes.
No credit card statements. They don't want to know about your Uber Eats and what you're spending your money on.
Literally not one thing about income, personal liabilities, nothing. And this is what we've been saying for a while, and I've been saying for a while. Peter Dunworth said it when I interviewed him. When the world figures out, and the financial world figures out, that Bitcoin is the perfect collateral, it's going to unlock an enormous amount of value. And what I mean by that is, if a bank takes, I was talking to a Swiss bank this week about mortgages and whether they would lend me money, because you can get money out of Switzerland for mortgages as low as 1.5%. And I'm saying to them, well, look, if I want to buy a place here in Cyprus or Dubai, if I could go and get $2 million from a Swiss bank at 1%, that's 20 grand a year. Like, why would you rent? Right? And I said, can I use my Bitcoin as collateral? So I've been having that discussion. But
can you keep me updated on that one?
I will.
No, that's very interesting.
1.5 was about 1.5–2% of the actual real rates, right? But that's a whole another discussion. But when I was talking to them, I was like, the thing about Bitcoin is, if they take security over a car, or they take security over stocks, or they take even stocks which are liquid, they've still got to wait for the market to open on Monday morning, right, before they can liquidate. If I fall into default and they've got Bitcoin as security in their custody, they can just sell it any time of day, any time of night, 24/7. And so Bitcoin becomes the perfect collateral. And what's really interesting about Leaden is, let's say you've got 5 Bitcoin or 10 Bitcoin, whatever it is. You've got this Bitcoin, and they're essentially saying, we'll just lend you on the value of the Bitcoin. As your Bitcoin's grown, Bitcoin's CAGRing at 40% per annum over the last 5 years. It means your borrowing capacity is growing by 40% a year just by holding Bitcoin. Not by increasing your income, not by getting another job, not by going and figuring anything else out. Just own Bitcoin and your borrowing capacity goes up by 40% a year. That's nuts. That's like getting a pay rise.
What was the LVR? 55, you said?
50%. So 50% of the value of the Bitcoin they'll lend you. So this is where the future, when Michael Saylor says...
And if it's going up by 40% a year, and it's a 50% LVR, you're basically topping that up within a year.
Correct, the mundo. That's the point, right? That's exactly the point.
That's what people need to click, you know?
And they need to understand that. And then Michael Saylor's been saying this for a while. In the future, you will never sell your Bitcoin. You won't need to. The rich never sell their stock. They borrow against their stock. It's all debt, like Elon Musk.
Unless you're in superannuation over 3 million.
Unless it's in your super.
Right, unless you're in Australia. But Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they don't do it. They just, their stocks go up, they borrow against the stock, and they spend the debt. That's it. They live on debt. That's what they do. The rich never fucking sell anything. And this is what's happening. Like here in Limassol.
They re-borrow, right? So they re-borrow. Like I listened to a thing on Instagram on Jeff Bezos. I don't know if it was true or not, but basically he never said, like, they are just refi. It's the same thing in property too. Like if you go and sell, the ins and the outs on selling, you know this, Adam, right? You had to with going overseas and stuff. But like if you can just sit and refi, no agents fees, no GST on new stock after 5 years, like you add all of those up and you can just keep refining and you just push it back and you push it back and you push it back. That's what a lot of these guys are doing. And in business, and I seen a clip on Jeff Bezos and what he's done and how he doesn't pay a lot of tax is because you only pay tax when you actually sell something, right? Or you're making money on something. But because there's probably so much cross-securitized, loans and the rest of it, man, they pay, it's all debt. Yeah, it's just.
As Donald Trump says, when he was arguing with Hillary Clinton, he says, yes, the rules are unfair. And I know you're not going to change them because you and all your cronies are playing the same game as me. But that's what's happening. And so there was a real future moment for me when I sat down and when it was real validation as well that in literally 15 minutes, I was able to get $50,000 without selling anything. And using the dodgy internet crypto money. I'm like, bro, catch up. This is what's happening.
So the question I have for you now.
Not only that, it's tax-free 50 grand too, right?
100%.
You haven't crystallized a profit at all.
No, at all. I could go and spend on whatever I want. I could go buy, if I think Tesla shares are going to outperform 12%, like you go and buy Tesla shares. Like one of my mates, you guys all know him on the Gold Coast, probably the best commercial deal we've all seen. Joseph, I said to Joseph, like, how much money will you take off the banks? Like, what's your thought on debt? He goes, I will take as much money as they will give me because you would have to be an absolute moron if you can't beat the interest rate that they're going to lend it to in the Australian real estate market. So I'll just take as much debt as they give me. And he's a multi-millionaire as a result of it. And so our job is to allocate capital more effectively than the people giving it to us. And that's it. And so Bitcoin just opens so many possibilities that all I've got to do is beat 12% a year. And currently, as you guys know, we're playing around with some stuff that's 12% a month. Like, who knows whether it'll work or not? Who knows? But it's interesting.
Just changes the game. But it's amazing though, Adam, like the amount of, because and I guess this is something for people to learn as well and do and action is private, whether it's a Facebook group, whether it's a WhatsApp group. We've got multiple groups that we're involved in, us four and one with a few other people. And I know you guys have been adding a couple mates to it and stuff, adding great value in those groups. And the amount of things that you learn. So if I was someone listening to this and you're going, shit, man, I'd love to be in those groups. I'd love to connect. Start your own group, create your own little community and go, you know what, let's start a group and let's learn about Bitcoin if it's Bitcoin, or let's learn about trading, or let's learn about real estate, and create your own little WhatsApp group. Because the amount of learning that I'm doing, going back through these WhatsApp groups, like that one that we have, and the friend that you just added on there, Mark, and the conversations, like I've never been involved in this level of detail when it comes to trading, and the amount that I'm learning and I'm reading things, I'm like, what the hell? Like, what's a SOL? You know what I mean? Then I'll put it in ChatGPT and then go back and forth. And I'm like, I don't want to ask a stupid question, right? Even though I'm saying it right now, right? But again, you're learning about what these things are and going this and that. And you're learning, like the amount of learning that I'm doing between you guys. And now we have obviously your other mate that's on there, which is quite a character that battles. It's amazing the amount of learning, right? But what you guys should do, anyone listening, is go create a WhatsApp group, get 2, 3, 4 of your craziest fucking mates that want to learn something a little bit different, and just drop stuff in there, right? Learning
what you're learning,
articles,
what you're learning.
Yeah, what you're learning, because Adam is doing it right now in real time. He has literally created this group, right? And he's got this vehicle that he's the guinea pig right now. And we're all kind of like, man, if this works, fuck everything else, right? Like I'm like prepping shit to fucking sell shit, because I'm like, man, if this works, we just need to do this for a short period of time. Anyways,
big if,
right? Yeah, correct. But the beauty of what he is doing, right, is one, like I said before, someone that takes action. I've never met anyone like you, number one. So take my hat off to you again. But it's in real time, like literally screen recording, looming. Hey guys, this is what it is. Real time. Started at this morning. This is what it is tonight. But there's, look at this number as well, because this can impact that number. And I'm just like, this is something I would have never, ever, ever been involved with unless I've met these guys, created this WhatsApp group that these guys have done. And now, Mark's in there going, guys, I'm fucking too busy. I'm killing it in my trades. I'm making 200% in fucking 12 days. I'm out of here, man. Don't bother me with this group, right? But I know if this thing works, right? Yeah, he's gonna come crawling back if we accept him back in the group.
Right? Exactly.
You'll go quietly. Quietly around the back.
I got fucking booted out of the group. I'm like, look, guys, I think you should be careful. I'm not sure that these things end well.
Anyway.
I got booted out of the group. Fine, then, can't see that.
But we don't want no negativity, man.
Just on that. Last time you shared screen time, Eric, like you said, this is my screen time, and like everyone should be auditing their screen time.
Yeah.
Listen to this. So my daily average is 4 hours 23 minutes. My most used app is WhatsApp, 1 hour 30 minutes. Then YouTube, 1 hour 8 minutes. Then X, 1 hour 7 minutes. Then Camera, 41. Then Messages, 34. Then Instagram, 29. So
keep going. Keep going. Tell us the nitty gritty. Take us down the rabbit hole, Matt.
One for a minute and a half daily.
my brokerage account, Comeback, Safari, KO, ChatGPT.
There's one in there that you don't want to
Eric's
reveal.
Instagram account.
I'm clean. I stopped watching porn. I'm talking about myself.
So the one thing I just want to mention, just to round this discussion out. What we talked about there was we have a private WhatsApp group. We're testing something which we will share once we're a bit more confident with it at some point, or we'll share the absolute disaster that it became. But essentially, it's a strategy where I put in 50 grand of my own money to just test it. And the first 7 days, I'm up 13.5%. So I made $6,000 in the first week, and then the next 3 days, I'm back to zero. But so we're just watching it with interest, and we're having this sort of little side bet. Like, can we outperform macro Mark the Master? Who knows?
I didn't know that was on. Let's fucking go.
No. But just for fun, I just want to give you a couple of other quick things. So with that Leaden platform, there's another little button on there which my mate did, which was B for B. Like that's what that's called. So it's Bitcoin for Bitcoin. So he put up a couple of his Bitcoin. And on 50% LVR, you just go and say, I'm going to put up 2 Bitcoin, and they just give you another one. So instead of giving you cash, they just give you 50% LVR, but just with another Bitcoin. So he just said, I've just increased my Bitcoin holding by 50%, not his whole holding, but instead of taking cash, he just took it in Bitcoin. So that's an interesting product in the drop-down menu. So you got 50% more Bitcoin just for securing it with them. And he has to be able to top up if it drops. And I'm like, that's interesting. But about a year ago, I was pumping everybody saying, look, guys, there's these young guys out of Japan. It's headed up, the head of treasury is Dylan Leclerc. Dylan's a guy that I followed online for a while. I just want to illustrate the power of following on YouTube. So when I look back, I've started following some really good YouTubers, and that's how I got into MicroStrategy, which blew up to a big investment for me. But that's where I came across Michael Saylor, Dylan Leclerc, and then Metaplanet, which is a Japanese company that was going nowhere, hired a guy called Dylan Leclerc, and Dylan said, I'm a disciple of Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. We're going to emulate exactly what MicroStrategy is doing. We're going to do it, but we're going to do it in Japan. And here's some loopholes, or not loopholes, but here's some reasons why this will work extremely well in Japan. And I've gone down that. Even better. There's an incredible arbitrage opportunity.
Because of the amount of debt.
And because of the amount of rates are so low there as well. Right? So
there's a whole bunch of reasons.
Yeah.
And I said to everyone, get some Metaplanet. So if you had Bitcoin, right, for example, and you thought, you know what, I've got a few Bitcoin, I'm just going to borrow 50 grand at 12% or 100 grand at 12%, and you're going to stick it over there into this publicly traded company. Metaplanet in 12 months is up 1,975%. So you would have turned 100 grand to 2 million, and you would have owed $12,000 in interest on that. Are you not selling your Bitcoin? You should just listen to this.
You should go back and see when you first mentioned it to us in the group and what price it was. I did the group coaching last night for the unemployable clients, and I used the deck from a year ago where I had still had the Metaplanet slide in it, and it was half that. It was at 800%. I'm going, guys, yeah, look at this. It's up 800%. Now it's up to nearly 2,000% for the year. And so just think about this. You own the Bitcoin, $150,000 of Bitcoin. You borrow 75, right? So you still get the 30, 40% growth in the Bitcoin, plus you get the 2,000% return on the thing. And then all that cost you was $12,000 of interest a year later, but you turned the 100 into 2 million. And essentially, I'm looking at it now going, this is what MicroStrategy and MicroStrategy has all sorts of other products now, but there's some fascinating stuff happening in the world. And if you're a young person, you don't need a license. You don't need to go to school for this. You need to watch YouTube and sit there until you start understanding it, and sit there with ChatGPT open. And like what Eric said, we've got this chat going, and we've got various levels of experience with trading and different things. And Eric said, I don't want to ask a dumb question. So he goes to ChatGPT and asks, and goes, all right, I know what that is now. But get yourself in a chat group of people that are savages and are just going, I want to learn this shit. I need to get out of this hole, and I need to create financial freedom. But there's that young girl with that apartment in Dubai. I know how she's done it now. There's the amount of money that's out there. If you're open and you're hungry and you're willing to learn and spend hours learning, man, there's so much you can do now. It's incredible. It's incredible.
So, like when you surround yourself with passionate people, like those groups, if I don't look at that group for 3-4 hours and they're in the mix, like there's 70-80 messages I'm going back through of banter back and forth, and the beauty of it is there's battle. It's not all in agreement. That's what I love. It's not like, oh yeah, well done, man. It's like, well, no, based on this, and I love that. It's so constructive. Yeah, it is challenging, and it's
challenging. Now, it's challenging arguments, not the person, right?
Yes,
it's like
correct.
It's just the idea that we're challenging, not the person, right?
The question I have for you, Adam, is with that Bitcoin leverage, is there a minimum? The reason why
I actually don't know.
The reason why I asked that, it would be quite interesting, because if there wasn't a minimum, right? When people say, "Oh, I don't have money," if you have $500,
I don't think there is a minimum.
If you have 1,000, you have 1,000. You know what I mean? Like anyone can start and have a play, because a lot of where people get stuck is like, I don't have the money, right? They might have $500, $1,000, $10,000, 50 grand.
$1,000. It's $1,000.
Right? So majority of people would have access to a little bit more than $1,000, right? To actually go and test and try this out.
Here it is here, Eric. It says here,
get curious.
On Ledden's B2X product, which is the Bitcoin to Bitcoin product I just told you about, the minimum amount of Bitcoin collateral required to get a loan is $500 worth. This allows the user to effectively double their Bitcoin exposure without selling their holdings, as they can borrow against their Bitcoin. Ledden also offers other loans with more flexible options and access to loans starting at $500. So you go, okay, well, what's the worst case scenario? You got to understand if you get a margin. So if Bitcoin pulls back, you got to fully understand when those margin calls come, and you got to be confident that you can, you've got the cash or the liquidity to top up, so that you don't lose your Bitcoin, because you don't want to have a market pullback and then have your Bitcoin taken off you forcibly when it's in a downturn. So your Bitcoin is going to go out of your custody and it's going to go into their wallet, right? So there's risk in that. You're trusting that they're responsible and that they are going to hold it. So there's real risk there. I don't want to underestimate that. My view is that there are now organizations like Howard Lutnick's company 21 and others that are emerged, like Ledden. The reason I got into Ledden is because some of the most trusted voices in the Bitcoin space are promoting them, which is comforting to me. But there's definitely risk with having it out of self-custody. And I'm doing it with a little bit of my Bitcoin holding. I'm not doing it with a majority or anything like that. So, but to just, do your due diligence. But the point is, there is real opportunity, and you do need, unfortunately, like, you're not going to be able to take no risk and be successful. That's not how the world works. Everybody's got to be on the risk spectrum. And the greatest way to lower risk is education and network. Get in a group like this. Like, we have I'm in 2 or 3 of these types of groups in different areas. And this girl, last week, I'm like, can I have a call with you? And I'm learning from her, and I'm open. And this freedom event we're going to put together, it's going to be 4 nights. I think it's going to 3 or 4 nights. It's going to be $500, I think, with 100% of the money going to charity. And the whole purpose is just to get people together from, like, Mark and others. My friend that we talked about that's in that chat group, he did $1 million in a day trading, like that, set up through the night and made $1 million. He's going to come on. He's not a speaker. He's not an educator. He's not even on social media. He's going to come in and talk. And the whole point of it is just to stimulate ideas. And off the back of that, you need to get in a group with other people and start talking about those ideas and committing to researching and dropping positive stuff in there and growing. So hopefully it's helpful to everybody listening. Guys, with that said, we should wind it up. Hopefully you found this one valuable. Drop a comment, subscribe, share with your friends. That's the best thing you can do to help us grow the show. And with that said, have a great week out there. James, thanks for coming, Mark and Eric. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
Hey there, I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you'd like to watch another episode, just click there.